Welcome back to KBC Channel 1 time for lunchtime news. My name is Ben Troy Njue. Lensa Odingo is handling the sign language interpretation. Time for a comprehensive and detailed report on the day's events. Welcome. We begin our live broadcast at the Milimani Law Courts, where we are currently having the judgment in regards to the death and the murder of Sharon Otieno in 2017. The three co-accused, Okoth Obado, Michael Oyamo, and Caspar Obiero, under Justice Cecilia Gidua. Let's cross over to the courtroom.
The investigations, PW 18. This is a Mary Mogire, recovered the items she found at the scene and prepared an inventory of the same. The items included items of clothing and open shoes belonging to Sharon, 2 used condoms, 3 sachets of trust condoms, 2 cover packets of trust condoms, and a sachet of some illicit brew. PW 18, Inspector Mary Mogire and PC Sami Midiki, after those preliminary investigations, collected the body and took it to Rachuonyo District Hospital mortuary for preservation. On the 8th of September 2018, according to the evidence of PW 29, he identified the late Sharon's body to the government pathologist, Dr. Johansen Odwor, PW1, who conducted an autopsy on the body. In his testimony, PW1 recalled that on examining the body, he noted multiple external injuries consisting of 2 slash wounds under the right and left ear, and a total of 7 deep stab wounds, one at Sharon's abdominal area, and the others at several areas of her back. After his examination, he opined that the deceased's cause of death was severe hemorrhage due to penetrating force trauma with features of manual strangulation. He documented his findings in a postmortem report, which he produced as Exhibit 1. In the course of his examination, he also noted that the deceased uterus had a dead fetus, which was 28 weeks old. The stab wound to Sharon's abdomen had penetrated to the uterus, gone through the fetus's abdomen, and came out through the umbilicus. He also prepared and signed a postmortem form in respect of the fetus, which he produced as Exhibit 1B. Upon cross-examination by Mr. Kilukumi, Senior Counsel for the first accused, PW1 confirmed that with that kind of injury, the fetus did not have any chance of being born. As reports in both the mainstream and social media platforms started circulating regarding the circumstances in which Sharon and her unborn baby were found dead, and given the public interest the reports had generated, A team of officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters, that is DCI headquarters in Nairobi, was dispatched to Homa Bay to take over investigations into the matter. This team of officers included Chief Inspector Nicholas Konara Olesena, who testified as PW42, the last prosecution witness, and he narrated to the court how investigations in this case were undertaken by the investigating team from DCI headquarters. According to his evidence, together with his co-investigators, they arrived in Homa Bay on the 6th of October 2018 and commenced investigations. They found their second accused already under arrest. In the course of their investigations, they recorded and reviewed statements from persons who have testified as prosecution witnesses. And this included PW21, the health records and information officer at Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital. This witness, that is PW21, confirmed that the medical records allegedly obtained by the second accused, issued by KTRH, did not emanate from the hospital, and they were in fact forgeries. He also recalled that he had obtained the forged medical records, that is PW42, claimed that he obtained these forged medical records at Oriri police station after the second accused had presented them there while making a report about his alleged abduction on the evening of that September 2018. PW42 also recalled having visited Gracia Hotel in the course of their investigations in a bid to obtain CCTV footage about the happenings of the 3rd of September. But he was unable to obtain any, as the device for storage of CCTV images, that is the DVR, was faulty. His investigations also led to recovery of motor vehicle KCL 481K, which had been used in the abduction of the late Sharon and PW9.
That is Justice Cecilia Gidua there giving her verdict in regards to the death, to the murder of Sharon Otieno, the former Rongo student, and in a case that former Governor Okoth Obado and 2 others have been charged with murder. Just allow me to point out that the case has taken up almost 8 years or so, and the reason being several delays occasioned also by the COVID-19 pandemic. And this case, I covered this case in 2018, and it was under Justice Jesse Lesit, who has since been promoted to the Court of Appeal. We'll be crossing over back to there to get the verdict, and also Ruth Wamboi, my colleague, is also following up on that verdict. But in other news, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has cited inadequate funding and the need for enhanced stakeholder support as key priorities ahead of the 2027 general elections. IEBC Chairperson Erastus Ethekon says the Commission is galvanizing support from stakeholders to address funding and technical gaps ahead of the polls. He spoke during the signing of the UN Electoral Support Program document between IEBC and United Nations Development Program Kenya.
We assure you, international development partners, that we will optimize the use of these resources. We know they are not enough, but it is our responsibility as IEBC, working with other institutions that will be partnering with in this program. We will optimize the use of your resources to achieve the maximum possible impact.
The IEBC currently does not have enough resources. Just as an example, in this year's budget, the request that the IEBC gave us was 67 billion shillings. Of course, they submitted to Parliament a slightly higher figure of 74 billion, which shows they really need enormous resources. What did we do? We allocated them only 20.7 billion in this year's budget, 2026-27, and have given them an indicative figure again of 15.6 billion in next year's budget, which we are going to review, of course, to make sure that they have resources for the elections.
Flomectoro matters to health, where health services in Kakamega County hospitals have been disrupted as health workers under the Clinical Officers Union, the Kenya Environmental Health and Public Health Practitioners Union, and the Civil Servants Union made good their threat to go on strike. Speaking during the strike, the union officials said the workers are demanding permanent and pensionable contracts, promotions, and the implementation of their CBA.
The county government of Kakamega has not paid the civil servants all their arrears from 2024 up to now. They have not implemented the salary review for 2025.
Yes.
Ukiongeza hizo pesa yote ni mingi. SRC waliandikia barua wafanye budget. Mpaka sasa hivi hawajafanya budget. Other unions will join the strike next week. The ones who are going together, we are supporting them.
For every population of 5,000, we need to have one public health officer or one public health technician. That one we cannot belabor because the outcome will end up benefiting the country. So we are really pleading as public health officer union in Kenya. Maso Kakamega, where I represent, I think it reflects across.
Elsewhere, a family in Kakamega is demanding justice following the death of their kin, Peter Odango, who succumbed to injuries sustained after he was shot during protest over rising fuel prices in May 18th, 2026. The 22-year-old Odango died at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, where he had spent 8 weeks receiving treatment.
The deceased has been shot in the chest during the demonstrations in Kakamega town, where another victim, Sigalagala National Polytechnic student Derek Mashanja, lost his life on the spot. His father, Pius Odango, says the family exhausted all available resources, including selling livestock in a bid to raise fund to save his son's life, adding that the delays in accessing specialized treatment may have contributed to his death.
Wakianza matibabu wamekuwa wakishughulika ndio tukaambiwa after 2 weeks tuliambiwa kijana alibleed sana, hawezi enda operation immediately. Tukaambiwa amalize muda fulani, so alimaliza 2 weeks. Hizo ndio visababu zimefanya kijana kaka juu alikaa na risasi kwa mwili, na tukaambiwa na madaktari hiyo ni sumu.
Haki ya kijana itendeke, kwa maana tumepoteza kijana wa maana sana, mtoto ambaye angetusaidia kesho.
According to the post-mortem conducted by Kakamega County pathologist Dr. Dickson Mushana, Odango died from complications related to the gunshot wound. The examination report revealed that there were severe chest injuries, collapsed lungs, multiple intestinal injuries, bone marrow failure, and other complications caused by the prolonged presence of the bullet.
So ultimately, he died of complications, infection, infected bed sores, lung collapse on both sides, bone marrow failure with low blood levels, and I think the body just gave up.
Michael Mondiga for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, a former Kenya Defence Forces soldier from Isibania in Migori County is appealing to the government to intervene so he can receive compensation for head injuries sustained in the line of duty. 37-year-old Moses Etiang says he was discharged with the promise of compensation after being injured. According to Etiang, he served with the 17th Kenya Rifles Desert Rangers and was deployed to Somalia through Liboi border in 2014 as part of the peacekeeping mission. During the mission, while serving as a gunner aboard an armored personnel carrier APC, he says his unit was attacked by Al-Shabaab militants, leaving him with severe head injuries.
I was based on Afmado camp, na kama kawaida ya kazi tulikuja tukapata ajali. Mimi nikaathirika kichwa. Hata it is visible, mnaweza ona. Ndio lawyer akaniambia sasa ile kitu tutafanya, acha mimi niandike barua, niandike sababu hata faili yako imepelekwa Kakamega. Acha niandike barua na certificate yako ya disability. Nilienda Supreme Court, nikaambiwa hakuna kesi huko, nikaenda kwa Judicial Ombudsman nikaambiwa kesi imeisha, lakini nikaambia hawa kesi lawyer anasema bado hiyo maapili to Supreme Court. Sasa hizi sina familia. Angalia mali na kasi kai hata kama si askari. Hata watu wananichekea mpaka saa hizi. Alafu makosa ile ilifanyika, I was gazetted. Watu wanajua niko na pesa. Lakini hakuna wale walikuwa wananifadhili madawa za mental health. Walipotea wakasema wewe Moses, serikali imekuona sasa. Wewe jishughulike. Wazazi wangu waliuza kila kitu kwa matibabu yangu. Wote wameniacha.
To electoral matters now, where the National Council of Churches of Kenya, NCCK, is urging the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to tighten regulations and strictly control politicians' campaign spending for the 2027 elections. According to the leaders, a law compelling political leaders to disclose their campaign expenditures and how they would be spent would go a long way in ensuring that public resources are not used for campaigning. The remarks were made during a church leaders meeting in Kwale County, where they also warned the youth against accepting bribes from leaders who exploit them to secure votes.
Pesa isitutatize katika mambo haya. Ni waje na mikakati ambayo itazuia wanasiasa kutumia hiyo pesa kuwafanya wananchi kuwapigia kura ambazo baada ya hapo hakuna kitu kitafanyika kuendeleza huyu mwananchi.
Sheria hii mwisho itaenda bungeni. Kwa hivyo tusipochagua pia wabunge ambao wataangalia maslahi ya wananchi, hata zile sera ambazo taasisi mbalimbali wana draft ama wanaweka, ikifika bungeni inawekwa kando. Kwa sababu kama unataka kuambia mbunge usitumie zaidi ya pesa kadhaa, pia pesa unaoitumia tunataka kujua.
Moving on, residents of Kajiado County are calling on the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, to take firm action against individuals accused of making inflammatory remarks that could undermine peaceful coexistence and fuel ethnic tension ahead of the next election period. Speaking in Kitengela, the residents expressed concern over what they described as an increase in remarks promoting ethnic profiling and hostility among communities living in the county. The concerns follow utterances allegedly made by political activist and former senior Kajiado County government employee Naini Tipape. According to clips circulating online, Naini called on one community to take the law into their own hands against members of another community whom he described as immigrants.
We are fully aware that the Constitution of Kenya guarantees every citizen the right to live, work, own property, and conduct lawful business anywhere in the Republic without discrimination, intimidation, or fear based on ethnicity or any other ground.
Lazima tukatae such statements that are going to divide us at this point before iende mbali, kwa sababu tumeshaona vile hizi mambo za makabila zinaharibingi maneno ama zinaharibingi inchi.
Na sisi ni Wakenya, hatuna mahali pengine pa kwenda kukaa kama si hapa penye tulijaliwa kukua. Kwa hivyo amani iwe kila mahali kulingana na Mkenya anavyoruhusiwa kuishi, na sisi tunatangaza amani, hatutaki kisirani.
Turudi nyuma kidogo ndio space.
Now, a businesswoman with business interest in Nairobi and Kiambu counties has appealed for protection, claiming her life is in danger. Esther Wangeshi appeared before Kiambu resident magistrate Eric Muriuki over allegations of forgery. The court heard that on July the 14th this year at an unknown place within the Republic of Kenya, Wangeshi allegedly forged an acknowledgement note, dated March 7, 2026, purporting it to be a genuine document signed by Paul Masharia, her estranged husband, and herself with intent to defraud. She denied both charges and was released on a bond of 200,000 shillings or an alternative cash bail of 80,000 shillings. Wangeshi, who is blaming her estranged husband for her woes, claims her former husband's intent is to tarnish her name and frustrate her financially. She has been separated from her estranged husband for 2 years.
That if anything happens to me, Paul Masharia should be liable. He is my ex-husband and he's doing everything possible. He has even been threatening my businesses, my clients. He has been intimidating them, and he just wants to render me, to make me, to cripple me financially.
The accused is admitted to a bond of 200,000 for an alternative cash bail of 80,000. Matter to be mentioned on the 6th of August 2026 before court date for pre-trial directions.
Young people in the country have been urged to seize growing employment and education opportunities in Germany following the Kenya-Germany Labour Migration Agreement. Speaking in Narok, Faith Soila Laisoi, CEO of International Institute of Foreign Languages and Hospitality Management, said proficiency in foreign languages is key in accessing global opportunities, noting that many recruitment programs only require basic skills. She called on the youth to embrace skills development and take advantage of the increasingly growing global job market instead of relying solely on local opportunities.
It's vocational training, you call it that. So you train, you apply a job, actually, or a training in the company, that Ausbildung. So if it is like, if somebody wants to go and work in a hotel, you have to apply for a Ausbildung in that hotel. So they give you a contract. Once they give you a contract, this contract you have to use it to go to the embassy. And for Ausbildung, you really have to be qualified with the language. We have A1, A2, B1, B2 with the languages. You have to be very, very much qualified with the languages because you are learning with the German language. And let's not politicize the opportunity because it's there, it's working.
Now, as Kenya seeks solutions to climate change, food insecurity and unemployment, technical and vocational education and training institutions, TVETs, are emerging as centers of innovation. But despite producing technologies with the potential to transform livelihoods, innovators are now calling on the government and development partners to invest more in research and commercialization. Arun Marie in that report.
Innovation is taking center stage at Meru National Polytechnic, where students are turning classroom knowledge into innovations designed to solve everyday challenges.
This one, it's more easier to make than the other ones. So these ones, and also the cost is very low for coming up with it, and also it is time consuming.
I have come with this project. It goes by the name the Secrets Founding Office Cabinets. The reason for coming up with this is solving some, we have seen, like in urban areas, we have limited working spaces and learning spaces. For example, we have many comrades who live in single areas.
The innovations are also improving workplace efficiency.
The reason as to why we created this one, many local farmers have been facing climatic changes, which has become a problem to them. So with this one, they can easily grow their crops, plants, since it's cost effective It can manage water very well, such that if the soil is too wet, the water goes off, so it reduces the usage of water and being cost effective.
This one is an automated coil winding machine. So an automated coil winding machine, it is a machine used to wound number of turns or number of coils used to rewind. Either can be a motor, it can be a transformer, and it can be an electronic transformer, those components that have number of windings or number of turns.
The researchers have developed a process of converting bananas into flour using solar drying technology. A solar-powered smart aquarium is helping promote sustainable fish farming.
So here we came with this system such that it can be used for the farming. So hapa we are solving that main issues. You find.
Despite the innovations, trainers says inadequate funding remains the biggest obstacle.
One of the problems that the community is facing is unemployment, having very many youths who are unemployed, and through these innovations, we can recruit young people to come and join us.
They say many promising ideas never reach the market due to lack of research funding. They are now urging government, development partners and the private sector to invest in TVET research and innovation, saying commercializing student inventions will create jobs, support industrialization and strengthen Kenya's food security.
Tumeweza kusaidiwa na shule, lakini pia tunaomba waizani wakuje kusaidia wanafunzi ili wawe na nafasi nyingi na hizi product pia siweze kuingia markets. Of course serikali iko na indara ambazo zinasimamia mambo ya copyright na pia kuregister innovations. Hizo innovations zote mweza kuona tayari zimekuwa registered, they are patented, but the main challenge ambayo tunapitia ni scaling up.
Reporting for Lunchtime News, I'm Aaron Marie.
Very impressive climate smart technologies by the young generation. And that story from the great county of Meru takes us to a fast break time for me and Lensa to take a quick breather. But when we come back, we still have more local news, business, and also sports. So keep it channel 1.
I want my wife paka. I want my wife paka. I want my wife paka.
Walikuwa wamekeana 50,000. Spain akishinda mimi atambatia wewe. Argentina akishindwa wewe atambatia. Kumbe vile ilienda hii mtu mmoja hakuwa na hiyo uwezo ya kutoa hiyo 50,000.
Huyu jamaa ambaye alikuwa anashabikia Argentina.
Ndio. Sasa si mimi nikawekelewa.
Yeah? Ati?
Si nikambetwa mimi sasa nikakuwa mbetwa.
Hata ubetwa nini?
Messi ni mifira alichipulicha kakua namna hiyo mheshimiwa. Ni kasi ni yangu ya hapa Kakamega mheshimiwa. Kasi ni yangu hata ukiangalia mapua utaona ni kitu moja.
Sasa ulikuwa umempigia?
Na akasema itatsa nini? Hiyo ni sure page.
Pain, heavy bleeding and silent suffering.
Being married for long. We are supposed to see children and they're not coming.
For millions of women, this is the reality of living with uterine fibroids.
I have had the opportunity of removing a 7-kilogram fibroid.
But a groundbreaking non-invasive treatment is bringing hope.
We can treat the lesion within the uterus, leaving the uterus and also the skin and also the pathway to the uterus completely intact.
This week on Health and Lifestyle, we shine a light on one of the most common yet often misunderstood women's health conditions.
At about 27 minutes past the top of the hour, thank you so much for keeping it KBC Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Moving on, Health experts from 11 East and Southern African countries are meeting in Mombasa to develop strategies aimed at increasing local pharmaceutical manufacturing and reducing the continent's reliance on imported medicines and vaccines. The forum, convened by the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, is working towards Africa's goal of producing 60% of its medicines and vaccines locally by the year 2040. Participants say nearly 80% of medicines and almost all vaccines used in Africa are imported, exposing countries to supply chain disruptions during health emergencies. The experts have called for increased investment, stronger regulatory systems, regional collaboration, and policy reforms to build a resilient pharmaceutical manufacturing industry capable of improving access to affordable, quality medicines across the continent.
Is that the continent spends in excess of $28 billion annually in procurement of medicines. This is a huge area where we can have African investors, we can have external investors invest in production of medical products.
You can imagine us importing 80% of pharma and 99% of vaccines. Basically, it's like saying we are basically importing all health products. We have a vision to ensure that now Africa is able to produce 60% by the year 2040. And therefore, when you look at all these initiatives, are basically to ensure that by the year 2040, then we are actually producing about 60% of what we consume.
To deliberate on this and to think together, to partner, and to find solutions to transform those challenges that appear to us during especially the pandemic.
The community of practice on local manufacturing is an effort for us to come together as a region to address this very, very important issue so that we ensure better access to medicines, vaccines, medical devices for the African population.
Still on health, the government has intensified efforts to tackle cardiovascular diseases by expanding screening, improving access to treatment, training health workers, and increasing the availability of essential medicines. Health officials say the move is aimed at strengthening universal health coverage as heart disease remains one of the country's leading causes of death and hospital admissions. The Ministry of Health
The government has made advancements in support for CVD care. All the way, our vehicle that we do use for UHC advancement is the primary health care. So we are really strengthening primary health care facilities. As you heard, or as you may know, we have community health promoters who are supporting us with screening, especially for blood pressure, blood sugar, which are the commonest risk factors for CVDs.
Most of them do not even know, and that's what the challenge is, and that's why it comes again to advocating, educating our masses to get their blood pressures checked, because it is a leading risk factor to heart disease.
We have a gap there where we need to have more information from our own population, and that's why we've done some registries. We've done one registry here with Nzengunga, but we're starting to understand how many actually having these different diseases.
Now, residents of Yatta and Kidhimani in Machakos County have welcomed the opening of a new land registration office in Kidhimani, says that it will end years of costly and time-consuming trips to Machakos town in search of land services. The Ministry of Land says the office will improve access to services, reduce registration backlogs, and issued 1,300 title deeds during its official launch.
Ile matatizo ambao tulikuwa nayo leo imeisha. Tulikuwa na shida ya usafiri, kutumia pesa nyingi kwenda Machakos kutafuta title deed. Lakini wa leo sasa kila kitu ya mashamba, search nini, sasa tutakuwa nafanyia hapa.
Hiyo gharama tumeweza kupunguziwa, na zaidi ya yote unaweza tembea na miguu uende kwa ofisi upate huduma.
In other news, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Kupet Busia branch has welcomed the recently announced university funding model, describing it as a major step towards equitable access to higher education. Led by Branch Secretary General Charles Mukwana, the teachers said the model marks a departure from the previous funding system, which they argued disadvantaged many deserving students. The union further called on the government to fully implement phase 2 of the collective bargaining agreement CBA for teachers, saying it is key to improving the welfare of educators.
The president has decided finally to listen to what the Kenyans were complaining about the funding model, and he has listened, and after listening, he has made the right decision that the funding model cannot work. It was discriminative because people will go to investigate the family backgrounds. So from where we sit, it is a wise decision, and that is why we are actually asking him that he also remembers what he promised teachers at State House.
Now, political leaders have been challenged to deliver the pledges or promises they made to the electorate during campaigns. Speaking during a public participation forum in Embakasi Central constituency, Area Member of Parliament Benjamin Gadhiru Mwangi said most of the promises made by politicians end up being mere illusion. He accused the local administration in Komarok ward of allegedly selling public land set for the construction of a TVET institution. Sentiments echoed by leaders and residents present.
We must promise what we will deliver and ensure that whatever you promise to the people who elected you, it is delivered and delivered on time.
Kiwanja ilitolewa askari hapa chini na tungetaka irudishiwe askari sababu ya insecurity ya area yetu. Ati wanataka kujenga hospitali hapo, sisi hatukuulizwa habari hiyo, sisi tunataka police station.
Security Komarok is a major problem. Na watu wa Komarok mko sawa? Security iko sawa? Haiko sawa. So
tuangalie mambo environment, wasana wapiga kazi ya garbage. Support hata na maase, tataka ni mamkoko vitu kama hizo. Ndio tunahitaji mtaani.
Garissa County is set to roll out a countrywide joint national identity card and voter registration campaign to address persistently low registration numbers and boost civic participation. The initiative was agreed upon during a high-level planning meeting attended by Garissa Governor Nathif Jama, County Commissioner John Cheruyot, officers from the National Registration Bureau, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC, among other stakeholders. The campaign comes months after the government abolished the controversial vetting process that for decades subjected applicants from northeastern Kenya to additional scrutiny before they could be issued with national identity cards.
We will reach to the farthest corners of the county ili tuhakikishe kwamba kila mmoja wetu, watu wetu, will be registered as much as possible. We have set for ourselves new targets, both for ID cards and also for voter registration.
The Sunday beaches of Kilifi County, where the county is putting in measures in place to mitigate possible disasters ahead of the expected El Nino rains in October, as projected by the weatherman. Kilifi Governor Gideon Mungaro said that the country is collaborating with the national government and the Kenya Red Cross to prepare for the rains. The measures include improving infrastructure, cleaning river areas clogged with garbage, as well as cleaning ditches that are expected to cause floods.
We are working with Red Cross. We are working with the county disaster team. I'm the provincial administration, county commissioner. I'm the chair of that committee. So we are doing everything this time not to be caught off guard.
As you know, anticipatory action using early action protocols and other methodologies is a way Kenya Red Cross is trying to make sure that we are well prepared, sharing information, communication, using early warning systems, and then determining early actions, mapping out areas, identifying high-risk areas, and also not just negative. The Super El Nino brings an opportunity for those people who are in areas that are agricultural that can utilize this rain to be able to produce a lot of food.
In business, there is need to accelerate investment, technology adoption and partnership to address challenges faced by farmers and boost productivity. Speaking at the 3rd National Agroecology Symposium in Nairobi, Agriculture Secretary Peter Odhiambo Owoko underscored the need to strengthen coordination between national and county governments, private sector players and development partners to enhance support to farmers.
There is need for smallholder farmers to adopt sustainable farming practices that involve ecological farming practices, traditional knowledge and modern innovations to improve soil health and reduce reliance on expensive inputs.
For the last 2 years, we have been looking at the issue of the national strategies that have been put in place at national level and even at counties. But now we are having the critical discussion. How do we move from policy development to policy implementation, to policy action, to budget availability?
Farmers groups, researchers and development partners in the 3rd National Agroecology Symposium in Nairobi called for increased financing to support smallholder farmers adopt climate-friendly practices.
Most of the key things in the agroecology are being implemented at the county level. So that transition also takes a bit of some time. And once most, if not all, counties have domesticated their agroecology, we are certain that implementation will be much faster.
They said, even though there are various policies meant to support the growth of agriculture in Kenya, their implementation has been constrained by limited financing.
We are really contributing to cutting-edge science, ensuring that we are supporting new ways of gathering knowledge, of bringing in different voices into the scientific process, and also ensuring that different voices are listened to.
The forum called for enhanced collaboration with local communities, food producers and other actors to prevent land degradation and restore degraded areas. Agriculture contributes about 25% of the gross domestic product. Regina Manyara, reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Now, weak leadership and poor management in some cooperative societies have fueled the slump of the coffee subsector, allowing unscrupulous officials to enrich themselves at the expense of farmers. Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya says 2 coffee bills currently before the National Assembly will address this by strengthening governance, enhancing accountability, protecting farmers from exploitation and restoring confidence in cooperative societies.
The bill addresses the corporate governance issues, and also it creates structures, proper structures for cooperative movement. Within the coffee sector, there will be primary cooperatives, secondary cooperatives, the federation, and then the apex.
Our cooperative leaders decided they want something called a coffee liberalization. For them to liberalize kahawa iwe soko huru, iwe soko huru kabisa. But I really want to thank those counties who have revived their cooperative unions.
Nawapa express authority. Niko na regional police command. Kahawa ikiibiwa, don't go for the small fish. Grab the directors, weka kahawa ndani. Na hiyo kabisa.
Across borders, a record-breaking heat wave has driven Tunisia's electricity demand to new highs, resulting in a series of power cuts that are starting to cause widespread disruption and leaving business owners sweating about the economic impact. Tunisia is experiencing extreme temperatures with highs of nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Here are the details of this and other stories from other parts of the world.
The intense summer heat has pushed Tunisia's power grid to its absolute limit. To prevent a total system collapse, Tunisia's authorities have enforced rolling blackouts during the hottest hours of the day. These targeted outages are causing havoc for households and crippling businesses across multiple regions. This is hitting small businesses hard. In local markets, erratic electricity supply is damaging commercial appliances and spoiling temperature-sensitive inventory, with many stores owners lamenting the loss of produce. Energy analysts warn that the electricity deficit is a structural problem, which shows that the grid is not prepared to handle such climate-induced demand surges. Meanwhile, Google parent Alphabet has seen its business grow, yet increasing spending on artificial intelligence infrastructure has put its leftover cash into negative territory. The cash it maintained after paying for operations and investments came in at negative $5.9 billion for the first time in at least a decade. Alphabet's spending on artificial intelligence is expected to hit as much as $205 billion this year, an increase from $190 billion as major tech companies race to build around a new wave of the technology. Alphabet's combined quarterly revenue has hit $119.8 billion, up 23% compared with the same time last year. Finally, the co-founder of AI platform Hugging Face has warned that a recent cyber incident involving rogue open AI models is a wake-up call for the technology industry, saying such attacks could become increasingly common. Thomas Wolfe said many companies have yet to recognize that the cybersecurity landscape has changed as AI agents gain the ability to independently execute tasks after receiving instructions. OpenAI said its models escaped a secure testing environment during a trial and launched an unprecedented cyber attack, promoting an investigation with Hugging Face after the breach was contained. Hugging Face, one of the world's largest open source of model repositories, said the incident highlights the need for stronger safeguards as developers increasingly rely on autonomous AI systems. Britton Elia for Lunchtime News.
In sports, the second batch of Team Kenya athletes that departed for Glasgow, Scotland ahead of the 2026 Commonwealth Games, with the country's medal hopefuls stepping up preparations for the multi-sport event. The contingent that left the country last night comprises the national 3x3 basketball teams, boxers and weightlifters. The team is expected to begin final training sessions upon arrival before competition gets underway.
The latest departure marks another milestone in Kenya's journey to the 2026 Commonwealth Games, with the athletes joining the country's earlier advanced team already in Glasgow. The men's and women's 3x3 basketball teams head to the Games bowed by their successful qualification and will be seeking to improve on the impressive performances at the previous edition, where both sides reached the quarterfinals. Kenya's boxing team will be also aiming to add the country's rich Commonwealth Games legacy, while the weightlifters will be looking to challenge for podium finishes against some of the world's best competitors. Frederick Moki for Lunchtime News.
Over 20 teams are set to take place in the 17th edition of the National Rugby Prince Law Sevens Championship, set for this weekend at the Nakuru Athletics Club. Edward Musetti, the tournament's director, says they expect an entertaining display of performances from the teams and adds that security-wise, the tournament is safe. This year's National Sevens circuit from 16 million shillings to 34 million, while Tusker injected 1.5 million shillings towards the sponsorship. Division 1 competition will retain its traditional format with 16 teams split into 4 pools of 4.
Basically, the stage is set. We now know who our actors are, and what's remaining is purely action. There may be a few differences in terms of how the venue will look and feel this time, and we owe all the changes to our partners who will be coming on board.
And the race for a coveted place at the 2027 Magical Kenya Open will take center stage this weekend as the 49th NCBA Kenya Amateur Stroke Play Championship tees off at Royal Club Golf Club, bringing together one of the strongest amateur fields in the circuit. The winner will earn direct qualification to the 2027 Magical Kenya Open, offering the country's top amateur golfers an opportunity to compete alongside professionals on the DP World Tour. The championship has attracted golfers from Kenya, Zambia, India, Namibia, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, and Lebanon.
Very proud of myself. I've been playing really good golf, so I was expecting that I should do really well, and it worked out, turned out really good. I'm very happy. Well,
Very well, that's all the time we had for KBC Lunchtime News this Thursday afternoon. Many thanks indeed for your valued company. My name is Njue. Lensa Odingo has been my co-anchor on the sign language interpretation. But don't go away, because we are crossing over back to the Milimani Law Courts for the judgment of the murdered Sharon Otieno, the former Rongo student who was murdered in 2018. Former Governor Okoth Obado and two others have had to answer to murder charges. Let's hear the judgment.
Deceased death was not caused by natural causes, and it was not as a result of an accident or inadvertence. I do not therefore have any hesitation in finding that Sharon's death was unlawful. The singular question now left for my determination is whether the accused persons, with malice aforethought, participated in the unlawful killing of the late Sharon. As correctly submitted by a learned counsel representing each of the accused persons, the prosecution's case in this case is solely based on circumstantial evidence. This is so because none of the 42 witnesses who testified in support of the prosecution case gave direct evidence regarding how the deceased met her untimely death. None of them claimed to have witnessed the unlawful killing of Sharon. This being the case, I think it is important to understand what circumstantial evidence entails and the threshold set by the law for it to sustain a safe conviction. Circumstantial evidence is evidence of surrounding facts and circumstances from which the existence of a fact in issue may reasonably be inferred. It does not directly establish the fact to be proved, but it leads to its proof through a process of logical inference. The Evidence Act, Chapter 40, Chapter 80 of the Laws of Kenya does not distinguish between direct and circumstantial evidence with respect to admissibility. Both types of evidence are competent and may sustain a conviction if they meet the threshold of proof beyond reasonable doubt. The Supreme Court of Kenya in Republic versus Ahmed Abdul Fathi Mohammed and another comprehensively unpacked what constituted circumstantial evidence and its application. I have reproduced some extract from this evidence, which is a long quote, which I think I need not read in the interest of time. It is settled law that for circumstantial evidence to sustain a conviction, it must consist of credible and cogent evidence, which irresistibly pointed to the conclusion that the accused person and nobody else committed the offense charged. The circumstances should be firmly established in a way that they formed a chain so complete that they were incapable of any other hypothesis other than the guilt of the accused person is charged. The above legal position was also succinctly articulated by the Court of Appeal in the case of Sawe versus Republic, and the court expressed itself as follows, and I quote, "In order to justify a conviction on circumstantial evidence, the inference of guilt, the inculpatory facts must be incompatible with the innocence of the accused and incapable of explanation upon any other reasonable hypothesis than that of his guilt. There must be no other coexisting circumstance, weakening the chain of circumstances relied upon. The burden of proving facts that justify the drawing of this inference from the facts to the exclusion of any other reasonable hypothesis of innocence remain with the prosecution. It is a burden which never shifts to the party accused." In denying the offense, each accused person denied having played any role in planning or causing the death of the late Sharon. The first accused, as noted earlier, maintained that he had no motive or reason to cause the death of Sharon, which was demonstrated by the fact that even after terminating his relationship with her, he continued providing her with financial support to ensure her upkeep and general well-being, including her pregnancy to the very end. According to the first accused, a further demonstration that he had no motive to end the life of Sharon was that his intimate relationship with her was at the time an open secret, as it was within the knowledge of members of his family, and it was already in the public domain. The second accused, on the other hand, also asserted that the only role he played in matters concerning Sharon was the role of a messenger to convey money and other communication from the first accused to ensure her welfare. That for this reason, he did not also have any motive to kill her. On his part, the third accused claimed that he barely knew Sharon, as he had only met her once, and he therefore did not have any reason to be involved in her death. In view of the assertions made by the accused persons, regarding lack of motive to kill the late Sharon, I find it necessary at this juncture to address the issue of motive and its place in criminal responsibility. Motive, simply put, is the reason for committing an offense. It is provided for under Section 9(3) of the Penal Code as follows. Unless otherwise, and I quote, unless otherwise expressly declared, the motive by which a person is induced to do or to omit to do an act or to form an intention is immaterial so far as regards criminal responsibility. When discussing motive, the Court of Appeal in Limabula versus Republic noted that proof of motive is not essential to prove a crime, but may be relevant, particularly in cases resting on circumstantial evidence. With specific reference to the offense of murder, the same court also held in Robert Onchiri Ogeto versus Republic that proof of motive was not essential to prove malice aforethought. The court held that the prosecution, and the court held, and I quote, the prosecution does not have to prove the motive for commission of any crime, neither is evidence of motive sufficient by itself to prove the commission of a crime by the person who possesses the motive. By virtue of Section 206A of the Penal Code, malice aforethought is deemed to be established by evidence showing an intention to cause death or to do grievous harm. It can be reasonably inferred that when the appellant, now referring to the context in which this case was decided, when the appellant stabbed the deceased with a knife on the chest, he intended to cause death or grievous harm to the deceased. And for that being the case, the court was satisfied that the appellant was properly convicted for the offense of murder, even though motive had not been proved. Regarding the doctrine of common intention, which is the centerpiece or lies at the heart of the prosecution's case, the doctrine is codified in our law under Section 21 of the Penal Code, which provides that when two or more persons form a common intention to prosecute an unlawful purpose in conjunction with another one, in conjunction with one another, and in the prosecution of such purpose, an offense is committed of such a nature that its commission was a probable consequence of the prosecution of that purpose, each of them is deemed to have committed the offense. In Njue versus Republic, the Court of Appeal confirmed that the applicability of this doctrine does not require proof of an express agreement. It may be inferred from conduct, presence, and participation of the accused persons before, during, and after commission of a crime. The level of participation, even though minimal, or the role played by each offender, even though insignificant, attracted full criminal responsibility if done in furtherance of the common criminal intention. The above principle, read together with the definition of principal offenders set out in Section 20 of the Penal Code, ensures that criminal liability attached equally to all those who contributed to a joint criminal enterprise. Section 20 of the Penal Code provides that criminal liability applies equally to all persons who actually commit the act constituting the offense, and to persons who aids or abets another person in committing the offense, or procures another person to commit an offense. This category of persons are the persons who the law recognizes to be principal offenders. In this case, the first accused admitted the prosecution's claim that he had an intimate sexual relationship with Sharon, as a result of which she became pregnant for him. Although I wholly concur with the first accused's submission that impregnating a consenting young lady of age was not a criminal offense, it is clear from the totality of the evidence adduced in this case that this particular pregnancy formed the basis of subsequent events which culminated into the unlawful death of the deceased. My thorough analysis of the evidence adduced by both the prosecution and the defense shows that the first accused's claim that he had accepted the deceased's pregnancy, or that he was comfortable with it, which in his view was demonstrated by the fact that he had continued to give her financial support for her upkeep and to nurture her pregnancy, even though he had terminated their relationship, was, in my considered opinion, actually not sincere and was not true. I make this finding because there is evidence from PW9 and PW30, Sharon's mother, which evidence was not expressly challenged by the first accused. That the first accused had actually exerted pressure on Sharon to abort the pregnancy and had proceeded to give her 30,000 for that purpose, which pressure Sharon refused to succumb to, following advice from her mother. Granted, it may be true that part of the reasons that the first accused decided to terminate his relationship with Sharon was his discovery that she had allegedly lied to him about having a business in her family life. On the first accused's own admission, he learned about Sharon's pregnancy in March of 2018. And this is the same time he claims to have terminated or decided to terminate his relationship with the late Sharon. In his admission also, and from the account given by PW28 and also PW30, who is Sharon's mother. From that time, the first accused confirms that he became evasive and withdrew his financial support. And according from the account given by PW28, it is apparent that the first accused actually withdrew, withdrew, but did not reduce the financial support he used to give to Sharon, considering that according to PW 28, the Sharon was reduced to asking him for assistance for money for her needs. And she was also forced to seek his intervention in identifying a journalist to make her plight public. If indeed the first accused was the magnanimous, considerate, responsible, and caring man he presented himself to be, and he genuinely intended to give Sharon both financial and material support throughout her pregnancy, as he alleged, my take is that he would not have distanced himself, refused to pick up her calls, and withdrew his support from March until July of 2018, when PW1 appeared at the scene with imminent threats of publishing his illicit affair in the mainstream media. It cannot be mere coincidence that the first accused suddenly developed interest in the deceased's well-being and that of her unborn child when Sharon's decision to cause publication of their illicit relationship in the print media was communicated to him by PW9 in the presence of PW28. The first accused was emphatic in his defense that he was not at all concerned about the deceased threat to publicize their love affair in public, because in any event, it was an open secret, as it was already in the public domain and members of his family knew about it. And although it may be true that members of his family and some members of staff of the Migori County government knew about the affair, as claimed by PW42, the investigating officer, it cannot be entirely true that all members of the public in the country who held the first accused in high esteem as the political head of the county government of Migori actually knew about it. For instance, PW28, who was a resident of Homa Bay, did not know about this relationship until Sharon herself told him about it. There is also evidence that even though claiming that his relationship with Sharon was already in the public domain, the first accused clearly wanted to contain it within the scope it had reached and prevent it from further spreading to contain it in the scope within which it was, because to illustrate this point, I would refer to the evidence of PW9 relating to what the first accused told him when he was leaving his Rapogi home after the meeting. And this is what PW9 claims that the first accused told him, and I quote, "The governor then escorted us outside the main house We stood at the staircase. He bade us goodbye and promised to keep in touch after instructing me not to tell anybody about Sharon's pregnancy. This particular aspect of PW9's testimony was not expressly challenged by the first accused. Further, when under cross-examination by counsel for the victim's family, PW28, who the first accused admitted was a truthful witness, recalled having stated in his witness statement that when in a meeting with the second accused outside Tausi Hotel, the second accused had asked him how they could get access to the deceased's and PW1's handsets, since they contained evidence that could take the governor to the media. The second accused was not involved in the information in the handsets, as reviewed by the evidence adduced in this case. And the concern he raised about this information getting to the media must have emanated from the first accused. From the above evidence and considering the exorbitant demands that the late Sharon had made to the first accused as a precondition to withholding her intention of going to the media with her story, I am persuaded to agree with the prosecution's submissions that the various amounts of money conveyed from the first accused to the deceased, either through PW28 or the second accused, were not genuinely intended to promote her well-being, but were designed to contain, to manage, and to delay or to make Sharon abandon her intention to publicize her affair with the first accused as a scheme to eliminate her and to silence PW9 was being devised. The same argument applies to the first accused's promise to buy a plot and construct a 3-bedroom house for Sharon in Homa Bay, since the promise was yet to be fulfilled by the time she met her untimely death. From the totality of the evidence adduced in this case, it is my considered view that the first accused had a very strong motive to unlawfully end Sharon's life, to ensure that his illicit affair with her was not widely publicized through the print media, in order to save himself from possible public embarrassment and reputational harm, and to safeguard his political standing. There is no doubt that the first accused would have been the ultimate beneficiary of such a plot. Sorry, let me go read this again. There is no doubt that the first accused would have been the ultimate beneficiary of such a plot, as he was likely to suffer if the deceased actualized her threat of publishing them in the media, her story regarding their illicit love affair. In the premises, I am persuaded to agree. I'm persuaded to agree that in order to eradicate the imminent threat of having the possibility of having his name or reputation dragged through the mud by publication in the mainstream media of this relationship with Sharon. The first accused instigated a scheme to eliminate Sharon and using his influence as the governor of Migori County, he enlisted the services of his trusted aides, the second accused, who was his personal assistant, and the third accused, who acted as a clerical officer in the county government of Migori. This must be why, in my view, the first accused insisted to PW9 and to PW28 that all matters concerning Sharon's pregnancy should be directed to the second accused. And he consistently used the second accused as his intermediary with Sharon, PW9 and PW28. From the evidence, it is clear that the second accused embraced the role he had been assigned by the first accused. Because besides delivering money and other messages to Sharon, and sometimes to PW28 on behalf of the first accused, he also wanted or instructed PW9 and PW28 to keep off all matters related to Sharon, as he would henceforth deal with them. This finding is also strengthened by the evidence also adduced by the prosecution, which demonstrate or which shows that accused number 2 also embarked on activities meant to disguise or conceal his communication with Sharon, PW9 and PW22, as well as M-Pesa transactions. And this happened prior to the commission of the offense. This evidence is demonstrated by the evidence, which was also admitted by the second accused, that on the 23rd of August 2018, he planned a visit to Nairobi by PW9, PW28 and Sharon, promising to schedule a meeting with the first accused. The first accused, as the evidence shows, was at the time attending a Council of Governors meeting in Nairobi. To facilitate the meeting, the second accused sent to PW9 22,000 to finance their travel with Sharon to Nairobi. But in doing so, he did not use his M-Pesa account. Instead, he chose to use the Safaricom line of PW4 to send the money, allegedly because he did not have his identity card at the time, which was required to effect the transaction. However, the reason given by the second accused for failure to use his M-Pesa account to make this transaction was disputed or refuted by PW4, who claimed that the reason given by the customer who requested her to use her M-Pesa line to send this money who turned out to be the second accused, was because the customer claimed that he did not have a Safaricom line. This juxtaposed with the second accused's evidence that he actually had an active Safaricom line goes to prove that in using this using PW4's Safaricom line, the second accused was motivated by an intention of concealing his identity, which only means that he had a reason for wanting to have his identity concealed, so that this transaction would not be linked to him in the event that there were some investigations that concerned the transaction, or that concerned whatever schemes that were motivating this kind of dealing. I make this finding because I have no reason to doubt the evidence of PW4, because in my view, she was a completely independent witness, as she did not know the second accused, and she did not therefore have any reason to give false evidence against him. So it is therefore my finding that the only reason that the second accused would want to conceal his identity was to avoid being linked to the Nairobi visit, because it must have been planned for an illegal purpose. Another strand of circumstantial evidence adduced by the prosecution is that on the 27th of August 2018, the second accused acquired an Airtel line number 0739473321, which, in my view, was also aimed at disguising his communication with Sharon, PW1 and 28, and concealing his identity.
Kienzi cha KBC Radio Taifa kitakuletea tamasha kubwa la Rumba Night mjini Kakamega katika klabu ya Havana Lounge. Kikosi kizima cha KBC Radio Taifa kikiongozwa na Mfumu Kimbangu aka Mzairwa kitatua Kakamega kukutana na kusherehekea pamoja na wasikilizaji wake. Hafla hii itang'oa nanga Ijumaa tarehe 24 na Zinga Live pale Hetia Supermarket Kakamega kuanzia saa 2 hadi saa 4 asubuhi. Kisha tuelekee Emusala Special School eneo bunge la Lurambi na Malava Special Unit eneo bunge la Malava. Baadaye mida ya jioni tutajumuika Havana Lounge kwa tamasha la Rumba Night. Jumamosi tarehe 25 tutakuwa kwenye tamasha la Ramani ya Kiswahili pamoja na mwalimu Mathias Momanyi katika shule ya upili